You know that feeling when you check the clock and realize 3 hours passed in what felt like 10 minutes, but somehow you cannot remember a single meaningful moment from those lost hours? Or when you find yourself mechanically scrolling through your phone, watching time drain away like water through your fingers, leaving you emptier than before? You wake up on Monday morning and suddenly it is Friday evening, but you cannot recall anything that made your heart beat faster, anything that made you feel truly alive. You are not alone in this. I have been there too, trapped in the relentless ticking of profane time, where minutes become burdens and hours become voids that swallow our essence. There is something devastating about realizing you have lived entire weeks without truly being present, without touching anything real, without feeling that spark that reminds you that you are more than just flesh moving through space. Perhaps you have experienced those moments when you sit across from someone you care about, but you are both staring at your phones instead of into each other's eyes. Or those dinner conversations that feel like business meetings, where everyone is going through the motions of connection but nobody is actually present. Maybe you have felt the hollow ache of being surrounded by people but feeling completely alone, of talking for hours but never saying anything that matters, of touching bodies but never touching souls. This is the prison of profane time, where we measure our days in productivity metrics and social media notifications instead of moments of genuine presence and authentic connection. If you recognize this ache, this hunger for moments that actually matter, this deep longing for encounters that feed your soul rather than drain your energy, then you understand why the Romanian philosopher and historian of religions Mircea Eliade spent his life exploring something he called the collapse of profane time through sacred encounters. He understood that beneath the mechanical rhythm of modern existence lies a different kind of temporality, a sacred dimension where time bends and expands according to the depth of our presence, rather than the movement of clock hands. Eliade understood something profound about human existence that modern life has made us forget. He saw that we live simultaneously in two different kinds of time, two completely different ways of experiencing reality. There is profane time, which is linear, quantitative, and mechanical, the time of clocks and schedules and deadlines that marches forward relentlessly, indifferent to our souls. This is the time that makes us feel like prisoners, always running late, always behind, always aware that something precious is slipping away. It is the time of rush hour traffic and deadline anxiety, of counting down the hours until weekend, and then watching the weekend disappear in a blur of errands and obligations. But there is also sacred time, which is qualitative, cyclical, and alive, where moments expand and contract according to their meaning rather than their duration. Sacred time is not measured by the movement of clock hands, but by the depth of experience, the intensity of connection, the degree to which we touch something eternal and timeless within ourselves and others. In sacred time, 5 minutes of genuine intimacy with another soul can feel more nourishing than 5 hours of empty social interaction. An hour of deep creative flow can feel like both an eternity and an instant, leaving you refreshed rather than depleted, expanded rather than diminished. Consider how different your experience of time becomes when you are truly engaged versus when you are merely going through the motions. Think about how an hour spent in forced small talk at a networking event can feel like torture, while an hour spent in deep conversation with someone who truly sees you can feel like a gift. Notice how time seems to crawl when you are waiting for something you dread, but flies when you are absorbed in something you love. This is not just psychology, but a fundamental truth about the nature of consciousness and temporality that Eliade spent decades studying and documenting. The ancient Greeks understood this distinction in their language itself. They had two different words for time: chronos, which referred to sequential quantitative time, and kairos, which referred to the right time, the supreme moment, the time of significance rather than sequence. Chronos is the time of clocks and calendars, while kairos is the time of opportunity and meaning, of those pregnant moments when something significant is about to unfold. Most of us live almost entirely in chronos, slaves to schedules and deadlines, while kairos becomes increasingly rare and precious. When Eliade spoke of the sacred breaking into the profane world, he was describing those rare moments when linear time seems to stop, when the mechanical progression of seconds and minutes becomes irrelevant because we have accessed something deeper and more real. He called these moments hierophanies, manifestations of the sacred in ordinary life, breakthroughs of eternity into temporal experience. Think about the last time you had a conversation that made hours feel like minutes, where you lost track of time completely because you were so absorbed in genuine connection with another person. Think about moments of deep meditation, passionate creativity, or profound love, where time seemed to dissolve entirely. These are not mere psychological phenomena, but glimpses into what Eliade called the eternal present, where the sacred dimension of existence breaks through the ordinary flow of temporal experience. Maybe you remember a night when you sat talking with someone until sunrise, and when you noticed the light beginning to filter through the windows, you were shocked to discover that 8 hours had passed without your awareness. Or perhaps you recall a moment of creative inspiration when you lost yourself so completely in writing, painting, or music that you emerged from the experience feeling like you had been somewhere else entirely, somewhere outside the normal boundaries of time and space. These experiences point to our capacity to transcend the limitations of chronological time and access what mystics and philosophers have called the eternal now. What makes this even more profound is that Eliade discovered these moments often occur when two conscious souls recognize each other across the noise of everyday existence. When someone who has awakened to the deeper currents of life meets another who has done the same, something magical happens. The artificial boundaries that separate us dissolve, and suddenly, we are not two isolated individuals moving through mechanical time, but interconnected beings, sharing in the eternal now. This is not romantic fantasy, but a recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness, our shared participation in something larger than our individual existences. Consider the phenomenon that occurs when you meet someone with whom you have instant rapport, where conversation flows effortlessly, and you find yourselves finishing each other's thoughts or sitting in comfortable silence that feels more intimate than words. There is a quality of recognition that happens, as if you are remembering someone you have always known rather than meeting someone new. In these encounters, the usual social masks and defenses become unnecessary because you sense that you are safe to be authentic, to drop the performance of being someone other than who you really are. You know what touches me most when I read your messages? It is realizing that we are not alone in this search. If you are listening to me now and feel that emptiness, that sensation that something important is missing in your life, I want you to know that I understand exactly what you are going through. There were moments when I also felt completely disconnected from the sacred, lost in the midst of a routine that seemed to suck all the magic out of existence. That is why I want to ask you a very direct question. What was the last moment you felt there was something greater than yourself present in your life? It could have been contemplating a sunset, listening to music, or simply in an instant of silence. If you feel comfortable, write in the comments, "I miss the sacred in my daily life," and briefly tell when that last moment was. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to read today to feel less alone in this journey. And I promise I will read each comment with the care it deserves. The beautiful thing about Eliade's understanding is that he showed us these experiences are not accidents or rare gifts reserved for mystics and saints. They are our birthright as human beings, our natural way of experiencing reality when we stop fighting against our deeper nature. Throughout history, in every culture, there have been rituals, practices, and traditions designed to facilitate these moments of sacred time. From the ancient Greek symposiums where philosophers would talk through the night, losing themselves in the pursuit of truth, to the indigenous sweat lodge ceremonies where participants would enter a timeless space of healing and transformation, to the Christian monastic practice of contemplation where hours would pass like moments in the presence of the divine. In traditional Japanese tea ceremony, every movement is designed to create sacred time, to slow down the participants and invite them into a quality of presence where the simple act of preparing and sharing tea becomes a meditation, a prayer, a moment of communion that exists outside the rush of ordinary life. The ceremony can last for hours, but participants often report feeling that no time has passed at all, or that they have been transported to a realm where time operates according to different laws. Similarly, in the Jewish tradition of Shabbat, an entire day is set aside each week as sacred time, a deliberate interruption of the work-week rhythm designed to remind practitioners that there is more to existence than productivity and achievement. During Shabbat, clocks become irrelevant as families and communities gather to share meals, tell stories, study sacred texts, and simply be present with each other in a way that the frantic pace of modern life rarely allows. Many who observe Shabbat describe the day as feeling both eternal and instantaneous, a pocket of sacred time that refreshes and restores in ways that mere rest cannot accomplish. Indigenous cultures around the world have always understood that certain activities, certain encounters, certain rituals have the power to shift consciousness and alter the experience of time. Vision quests, drum circles, storytelling circles, healing ceremonies all create what anthropologists call liminal space. threshold time where the ordinary rules of social interaction and temporal experience are suspended, allowing participants to access deeper dimensions of reality. But perhaps most relevant to our contemporary experience is the recognition that these sacred encounters do not require formal religious or spiritual contexts. They can happen anywhere two souls meet in authentic presence. They happen in coffee shops when strangers find themselves in deep conversation, in creative collaborations when artists lose themselves in the flow of shared inspiration, in moments of crisis when people drop their defenses and meet each other in raw honesty and vulnerability. But Eliade also recognized something tragic about modern existence, something that becomes more heartbreaking the more deeply we understand what we have lost. We have become so immersed in profane time, so addicted to mechanical productivity and linear progress, that we have forgotten how to access sacred time altogether. We live in a world where every moment must be optimized, every interaction must be efficient, every experience must be documented and shared. We have lost the art of simply being present with another person, without agenda, without distraction, without the need to capture or commodify the experience. We have forgotten that some of the most profound moments of human existence cannot be measured by any external standard because their value lies not in duration, but in depth. Modern technology, for all its benefits, has accelerated this disconnection from sacred time in ways that would have been unimaginable to previous generations. We carry devices that fragment our attention into smaller and smaller pieces that train us to expect instant gratification and constant stimulation. We have become addicted to the dopamine hit of notifications and the false sense of connection that comes from digital interaction. Many of us spend more time curating our online personas than cultivating our inner lives, more energy maintaining virtual relationships than nurturing real intimacy. The result is a peculiar form of temporal alienation, where we are simultaneously overwhelmed by information and starved for meaning, constantly busy but rarely engaged, connected to everyone and intimate with no one. We schedule our spontaneity and plan our presence, trying to manufacture the very experiences that can only emerge when we stop trying to control outcomes and allow ourselves to be surprised by grace. We have become tourists in our own lives, documenting experiences instead of having them, collecting moments instead of inhabiting them. This disconnection from sacred time has profound psychological and spiritual consequences. When we live entirely in profane time, we begin to feel like machines rather than souls, like resources to be optimized rather than beings to be cherished. We lose touch with our deeper rhythms, our natural cycles of expansion and contraction, activity and rest, engagement and solitude. We forget that consciousness itself is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived, not a productivity tool, but the very essence of what makes us human. The epidemic of anxiety, depression, and existential emptiness that characterizes contemporary life can be understood, at least in part, as the natural consequence of being cut off from sacred time and sacred encounter. When we live exclusively in mechanical time, constantly measuring ourselves against external standards of success and productivity, we lose contact with the deeper sources of meaning and fulfillment that can only be accessed through presence, through depth, through authentic connection with ourselves and others. This is why the meeting of awakened souls becomes so important in our time. When two people who have remembered their deeper nature encounter each other, they create a space outside ordinary time where healing, understanding, and transformation become possible. It is not about finding someone to complete you or to fix your emptiness, but about recognizing in another person the same sacred essence that lives within yourself. It is about creating together a sanctuary from the relentless demands of profane time, a place where you can both remember who you really are beneath all the roles and identities and expectations. Think about those rare conversations where you felt truly seen and understood, where the other person listened not just to respond, but to truly receive what you were sharing. Think about moments of creative collaboration where ideas flowed so naturally that you forgot who contributed what, where the boundary between self and other dissolved in service of something larger. Think about times of shared silence that felt more intimate than words, where you could simply be present together without needing to fill the space with chatter or distraction. These are examples of what Eliade meant when he spoke about sacred time breaking into profane existence through authentic human connection. The collapse of profane time that occurs in these moments is not an escape from reality, but a return to a more fundamental reality, one where time serves consciousness rather than controlling it. When two awakened souls touch, Whether through conversation, shared silence, creative collaboration, or simply being present together, they create what Eliade called a hierophany, a manifestation of the sacred in ordinary life. The mechanical ticking of the clock does not stop, but it becomes irrelevant because they have accessed a dimension of experience where meaning and connection matter more than duration and productivity. This understanding has practical implications for how we live and how we relate to others. It suggests that some of the most important moments of our lives cannot be scheduled or planned or optimized. They emerge spontaneously when we create the conditions for authentic encounter. When we make space for depth over efficiency, presence over productivity, quality over quantity, it means learning to recognize when someone is inviting you into sacred time and having the courage to accept that invitation even when it disrupts your planned agenda. It means becoming the kind of person who can offer others a sanctuary from the relentless pace of modern life, someone whose presence reminds others of their own deeper nature. Imagine what would change in your relationships if you approached each interaction as a potential sacred encounter rather than a task to be completed or an obligation to be fulfilled. What if you listened not just for information, but for the deeper currents of feeling and meaning flowing beneath the words? What if you allowed conversations to unfold organically instead of steering them toward predetermined outcomes? What if you gave people the gift of your undivided attention, your presence without agenda, your willingness to be surprised by who they really are beneath the roles and personas they usually present? This requires a fundamental shift in how we understand the purpose of human interaction. Most of us have been trained to see relationships as either functional, where we get specific needs met, or recreational, where we pass time pleasantly together. But sacred encounter points toward a third possibility: transformational relationship, where meeting another soul in authentic presence changes both of you in ways that cannot be predicted or controlled. In these encounters, both people are simultaneously teacher and student, healer and healing, giver and receiver. Consider how different your experience of conflict would become if you approached disagreements as opportunities for sacred encounter, rather than battles to be won. Instead of trying to prove your point or defend your position, what if you listened for the deeper truth that the other person is trying to express, even if they are expressing it clumsily or defensively? What if you spoke from your own authentic experience rather than from rehearsed arguments or borrowed opinions? Many of our most meaningful breakthroughs in understanding ourselves and others happen not when we are agreeing, but when we are willing to meet each other honestly in the midst of difference. The practice of creating sacred time through authentic encounter also transforms our relationship with solitude. When we have tasted the depth that is possible in genuine connection with others, we become more capable of genuine connection with ourselves. Sacred solitude and sacred encounter are not opposites but complementary aspects of the same awakened way of being. The person who has learned to be fully present with others naturally develops the capacity to be fully present with their own inner life, and vice versa. But this also requires what Eliade called a remembering, a return to our original nature as spiritual beings having a human experience rather than human beings occasionally having spiritual experiences. It requires recognizing that beneath our social roles and professional identities and personal histories, we are all expressions of the same sacred source, all participants in the same cosmic dance, all longing for the same fundamental recognition and connection. When we approach others from this understanding, when we see through the surface differences to the shared essence beneath, we create the possibility for those moments when time itself seems to stop and eternity breaks through into ordinary experience. This remembering is not a philosophical concept, but a lived practice that requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to risk being seen as you really are. Most of us have learned to hide our deepest longings, our spiritual hunger, our need for authentic connection behind masks of competence, success, and social acceptability. We have been taught that being professional means being distant, that being strong means being invulnerable, that being realistic means lowering our expectations for what is possible between human beings. But awakened souls recognize each other precisely because they have moved beyond these protective strategies and learned to live from their authentic center. They are not perfect or enlightened in some superhuman way, but they have become willing to show up as they actually are, rather than as they think they should be. They have developed what we might call sacred honesty, the capacity to speak truth even when it makes them vulnerable, to acknowledge their struggles without shame, to express their love without guarantee of reciprocation. When two people who have cultivated this quality of authentic presence meet, something extraordinary becomes possible. The usual dance of impression management and social performance becomes unnecessary because both people sense that they are safe to be real. The conversation moves naturally beyond small talk and social pleasantries into the deeper territories of meaning, purpose, struggle, and aspiration. Time begins to operate according to different laws because both people are so engaged in the encounter that external concerns fade into the background. This is not about finding perfect people or ideal relationships, but about learning to recognize and nurture the sacred potential that exists in every human encounter. The person sitting next to you on the airplane, the colleague you meet in the hallway, the stranger you encounter in the grocery store, all carry within them the same sacred essence that lives within your own heart. Most of the time, this essence remains hidden beneath layers of social conditioning and protective armor. But when we learn to see with sacred eyes, when we approach others with curiosity rather than judgment, with openness rather than defensiveness, we create space for that essence to emerge and reveal itself. The tragedy of modern isolation is not just that we feel lonely, but that we have forgotten how to create the conditions for sacred connection. We have been taught to protect ourselves, to maintain boundaries, to be efficient in our interactions and strategic in our relationships. We have learned to see others as potential threats or resources or sources of validation, rather than as fellow travelers on the same spiritual journey. We have forgotten that some of the most profound healing and transformation happens not through individual effort, but through the alchemy of authentic encounter, through the magic that occurs when two souls recognize each other across the noise of everyday existence. This is why Eliade's insight about the collapse of profane time becomes so relevant to contemporary life. It offers a way of understanding and cultivating those rare moments of genuine connection that make life worth living. It reminds us that we are not condemned to live entirely within mechanical time, rushing from one obligation to the next, measuring our worth by our productivity and efficiency. There are doorways into sacred time all around us, waiting to be opened through the simple act of truly seeing and being seen by another person. When you have experienced this even once, when you have tasted what it means to connect with another soul beyond the level of personality and circumstance, you understand why Eliade devoted his life to studying these phenomena. You understand why ancient cultures built their entire spiritual practices around creating opportunities for such encounters. You understand that these moments are not luxury or indulgence, but necessity. Not escape from life, but deeper engagement with what life is actually about. The beautiful thing is that this capacity lives within each of us, waiting to be awakened and expressed. You do not need special training or perfect circumstances or ideal relationships to access sacred time. You need only the willingness to be fully present, to drop your defenses long enough to truly see and be seen by another person, to recognize in their eyes the same sacred essence that lives within your own heart. You need only the courage to create space for depth in a world obsessed with surface, for silence in a world addicted to noise, for presence in a world that rewards distraction. The practice begins with small acts of conscious attention. Instead of checking your phone while someone is talking to you, what if you gave them your complete attention? Instead of planning what you will say next while they are speaking, what if you listened with genuine curiosity? Instead of trying to fix or advise or impress, what if you simply received their words as a gift and responded from your authentic experience rather than from your accumulated knowledge? These may seem like simple adjustments, but they represent a fundamental shift from mechanical interaction to sacred encounter. When you begin to approach relationships this way, you will discover that other people sense the difference immediately. Most of us are so starved for genuine attention, for being truly seen and heard, that when we encounter someone who offers this quality of presence, we naturally respond by becoming more real ourselves. The masks drop, the defenses soften, and suddenly you find yourself in the kind of conversation that nourishes your soul. When this happens, when two awakened souls touch across the boundaries that usually separate us, profane time does not just slow down or become more pleasant. It collapses entirely, revealing the eternal now that was always there beneath the surface of mechanical duration. In these moments, we remember who we really are, why we are here, what actually matters. We remember that love is not just an emotion but a way of being, that consciousness is not trapped inside individual skulls, but is the very fabric of reality itself, that separation is an illusion, and connection is our natural state. But perhaps the most profound gift of these encounters is that they change how we experience time even when we are alone. Once you have tasted sacred time, once you have experienced what it means to be fully present with another soul, you begin to carry that quality of presence into all areas of your life. Work becomes less about completing tasks and more about bringing awareness to whatever you are doing. Creative endeavors become less about producing outcomes and more about participating in the flow of inspiration. Even mundane activities like cooking, cleaning, or walking can become opportunities for presence rather than tasks to be rushed through. This is what Eliade meant when he spoke about the sacred breaking into profane existence. It is not that we escape from ordinary life, but that we discover the extraordinary dimension that was always hidden within the ordinary. The sacred time you seek is not somewhere else, waiting for perfect conditions. It is here now, available in this very moment through your willingness to be fully present to whatever and whoever is in front of you. If you feel this longing, this hunger for authentic connection and sacred time, know that it is not wishful thinking or romantic fantasy. It is your soul calling you home to your true nature, reminding you that you were not born to be a prisoner of mechanical time, but a participant in eternal presence. Every person you meet is an opportunity to practice this deeper way of seeing and being. Every conversation is a chance to create sacred space. Every moment of genuine presence is a doorway into the timeless dimension of existence that Eliade spent his life exploring and celebrating. If you have made it this far, it is because something inside you recognizes that there is a different path, a deeper way to understand your own spiritual journey. I know what it is like to feel lost amid so much noise of the modern world, seeking answers that always seem to slip through your fingers. That is why I created this space, this refuge where we can explore together the ancient wisdom that still pulses alive in our hearts. When you subscribe to this channel, you are not just clicking a button, you are joining a community of people who, like you, feel that life has deeper layers waiting to be discovered. Here you will find not just knowledge, but genuine embrace for your thirst for meaning. Subscribe now and be part of this journey of rediscovering the sacred in everyday life. Your soul deserves this gift. The invitation that Eliade offers us is not to escape from time, but to transform our relationship with it, not to reject the world, but to discover the sacred dimension that exists within it. When two awakened souls touch, when consciousness recognizes itself in another, when presence meets presence without barrier or defense, profane time indeed collapses, and we find ourselves in that eternal now where all healing happens, all love flows, all truth reveals itself. This is not a destination to reach, but a recognition to cultivate. Not a perfect state to achieve, but a natural capacity to remember and express in every moment of genuine encounter. The sacred time you seek is not somewhere else, waiting for perfect conditions. It is here now in your willingness to truly meet the next person who crosses your path with the full presence of your awakened soul.